Okay, so in this review, I'm going to be going over all the different methods to solve and also imaginary numbers. So this one wants me to solve by graphing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my calculator. I'm going to clear out my screen. I'm going to go to y equals, I'm going to clear this out too. I'm going to type in my equation. So I have x squared minus 10x plus 25. I go and I graph it. Okay, and then what I want to do now is I want to go look at my table of values. So I'm going to go second table. And I can arrow up and down to see different values. So my y values are really high, so I'm going to arrow down a bit so I have graphable points. I'm going to start at 2, 9, and I'm going to graph all the way up to 6, 1. No, yeah. 1, 2, yeah, 6, 1. 2, 9. 3, 4. That was not 2, 9. 3, 4. 4, 1. 5, 0, 6, 1. I connect my points. And then my answer is where it touches or crosses the x-axis on this graph. Here it's touching at x equals 5. Okay. Same thing for number 2, except I have to get this equal to 0 first. So I'm going to subtract 12x on both sides. I have 2x squared minus 12x plus 16 equals 0. And I'm going to go ahead and graph that. So I go back to y equals, I go 2x squared minus 12x plus 16, and I graph it. Once it is finished graphing, I want to go ahead and I want to go and press my second graph to see the table of values. Sorry about that. I'm going to graph from 1, 6 to 5, 6. So I have 1, 6. I have 2, 0. I have 3, negative 2. 4, 0. And 5, 6. Connect my points. And I'm looking for where it crosses the x-axis, which is at x equals 2 and x equals 4. Okay. Same thing for number 3. I want to start off by getting equal to 0. I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I get x squared plus 2x equals 8. Then I want to subtract 8 on both sides. And I get x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So on my calculator, I want to go to y equals, clear out the equations that is there, and graph this one. I go to graph. And I go to second table. I'm going to arrow up because I don't see enough data points. So it's going to give me some negative values. You can see my graph again? Graph. So looking at my graph, I can see it's going to cross twice. So I'm going to want to make sure I have all those zeros in my table when I go to graph. So I have negative 4, 0, negative 3, negative 5. Negative 2, negative 8. What? Negative 2. Negative 1, negative 9. 0, negative 8. 1, negative 5. 2, 0. So this one is crossing at x equals negative 4 and x equals negative 2. Okay, this one wants me to solve using square roots, so what I want to do is I want to first get everything up. I want to get the variable one, so I'm going to add 15 on both sides. I have 2x squared equals 15. I divide both sides by 2. I get x squared equals 15 halves. I go and take the square root of both sides. Since I took the square root, it's going to be plus and minus. And then 15, square root of 15 over the square root of 2. I can try my factor tree, but it doesn't work, so it just stays radicals. Same thing with number 5. This time I want to start off by undoing the radical first because an exponent is affecting everything. So I have x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 8. I want to do my factor tree for 8. I have 2 and 4, 2 and 2. I have a pair of 2's, so I have x plus 3 equals plus or minus 2 square root of 2. The outside 2 came from the 2's I circled. The inside 2 came from the leftover. Then to get x completely alone, I subtract 3 on both sides. I get x equals negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. I cannot combine these because they do not have the same ending piece. So since this one has a radical and this one doesn't, they cannot get combined. This one wants me to solve by factoring. Since I have a leading coefficient or a number up front, I'm going to do the AAC method. So A is 3, B is negative 1, C is negative 2. I start off by finding AC, which is multiplying the A and C values together. So I have 3 times negative 2, which gives me negative 6. So I am looking for something that multiplies to negative 6, my AC value, and adds to my B value of negative 1. So negative 3 times positive 2 equals negative 6, and then negative 3 plus 2 equals negative 1. So that's what I'm going to split my middle number up into. So I have 3x squared, and then I'm going to have minus 3x plus 2x minus 2 equals 0. And then I want to split it up into 2 groups so I can divide out what they have in common. So that's going to be my first group and my second group. My first group has 3 x's in common. So I take that out and write that out front. 3x squared divided by 3x is just x. Negative 3x divided by negative 3x is 1. My second group has 2's in common, so I'm going to take out a 2 and write that out front. Then I have x minus 1 on the inside. Sorry. Then I want to combine my outside pieces together in a set of parentheses, so I have 3x plus 2 in one, and x minus 1 in the other. I'm sorry, I also did not give you enough room on this one. Then I'm going to take each of my inside pieces and set equal to 0. So I have 3x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. On the first equation, I add 2 to both sides. I have 3x equals 2. I divide it by 3, and I get x equals 2/3 for one of my answers. Second one, I add 1 to both sides, and I get x equals 1. On my second equation, this one is a little bit easier because I don't have the number out front. I'm only looking for what multiplies to 12 and adds to 8. So 3 and 4 multiply to 12, but 3 plus 4 gives me 7. That doesn't work. 6 and 2 multiply to 12. 6 plus 2 does equal 8. So I'm going to have x plus 6 and x plus 2. Then I take each of my inside pieces, or parenthesis pieces, and set them equal to 0. So I have x plus 6 equals 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. Then I subtract 6 on both sides. I get x equals negative 6 for one of my answers. On the second one, I subtract 2. I get x equals negative 2. And I'm done there. On number 8, it wants me to simplify the radicals, but they have negative numbers in there. Remember, I can rewrite this as the square root of 225 and the square root of negative 1. The square root of 225 is 15. If I didn't know that, I would want to do a factor tree. And then the square root of negative 1 is just I. So my answer here is 15i. Same thing on number 9. I'm going to split it up into 2 radicals. I have square root of 121 and the square root of negative 1. Square root of 121 is 11. Square root of negative 1 is I. Number 10, I'm going to split it up into the square root of 162 and the square root of negative 1. So 162 is not a perfect square. So I'm going to do my factor tree. I have 2 and 81. I have 3 and 27, 3 and 9, and 3 and 3. I have 2 sets of 3's. So what I do is I multiply those together. 3 times 3 is 9. That goes on the outside. This 2 that's left over goes inside. And then I still have my negative 1, which is going to turn into an I. So my answer here is 9i square root of 2. Moving on. It wants me to perform the operation and then write my answer in standard form. On number 11, it's subtracting the two imaginary numbers. So what I want to do is I want to distribute my negative. So I rewrite the first one exactly as I see it. The second one, negative times negative 4 is positive 4. Negative times 3i is negative 3i. And I want to combine like terms, so I'm going to combine my real pieces together. 2 plus 4 is 6. Then I combine the imaginary pieces. 5 minus 3 is negative 2i. Same thing on number 12. I have the minus in between, so I want to distribute that. The outside piece gets written the same. Minus 1 plus 7i, because I changed the signs. Then I add the two real pieces together. 3 minus 1 is 2, and the imaginary pieces get added. 9 plus 7 is 16. Okay. On number 3, this one is, there's no sign in between, so I'm multiplying. I want to use FOIL. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10i. 4i times negative 3i is, or no, just negative 3 is negative 12i. And then I have 4i times negative 5i, which is going to give me negative 20i squared. And I have I squared because I had two i's, and so they add an exponent when I do that. And I want to combine like terms, so I'm just adding the two middle numbers. So I have negative 22i in the middle, minus 20i squared. Remember, whenever I see I squared, it equals negative 1. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to replace this I squared with a negative 1. Okay, so then I have negative 6 plus 22i plus 20. So now I have two real numbers that I need to combine together, negative 6 and positive 20, which gives me 14 plus 22i. Same thing on number 14. I want to go ahead and FOIL. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 7i is 21i. Negative 2i times 4 is negative 8i. And negative 2i times negative 7 is, positive 7 is negative 14i squared. And I want to combine like terms. So I have 12 plus 21 minus 8 is 13i minus 14i squared. I'm going to turn that I squared into a negative 1. Then I'm going to multiply, so I have 12 plus 13i plus 14. 12 plus 14 is 26 plus 13i. I'm so sorry. I'm so sick. Okay, number 15. I'm doing multiple things. I'm distributing, subtracting, and adding. So I'm going to distribute first. I have 3i times 2, which is 6i. 3i times I, which is 3i squared. Over here, I'm distributing this negative, so I'm going to have negative 2 minus 2i. And then it's a plus at the end, so all of those just stay the same sign. Then I want to combine like terms. So I have a 6i, a negative 2i, and a 3i. So 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Then I have my two real numbers, which is negative 2 and 1. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Then I have my 3i squared, which I'm just going to rewrite for now. Then, just like before, I squared turns into negative 1, so I am going to replace that. So then I have positive 3 times negative 1, which turns into negative 3. Now I can combine my two real parts. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. And then I have the 7i, which didn't change. Number 16 works the same way. I want to start off by distributing. 2i times 3 is 6i. 2i times negative 4i is negative 8i squared. I have this negative, which I want to distribute. Turns into negative 3, negative 2i. And then my two pieces at the end just stay the same, so I have plus 4 minus 5i. I want to combine like terms. So I have a negative 3 and a positive 4. Turns into 1. I have a 6i again, a negative 2i, and a negative 5i. So 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 minus 5 is negative I. And then I have the minus 8i squared again. I'm going to go ahead and replace my I squared with negative 1. So I have 1 minus I minus 8, and then in parentheses, negative 1. 1 minus I plus 8. Now I can combine my terms. 1 plus 8 is 9. So I have 9 minus I for my answer here. Okay. Number 17 wants me to find the value of x and y that satisfy the equation. So what I do is I set my two real pieces to equal together. So I have 3x and 27. Those are both real because they don't have any i's. So I have 3x equals 27. And then I'm going to set my two imaginary pieces together, so the parts with i's, I'm going to set those equal. So I have 9i and negative yi. Okay, to solve for x, I divide by 3. I have x equals 9. To solve for y, I want to divide by negative I, because I got to make sure this y is positive. So the 9 gets divided by negative I. Turns into negative 9 equals 1. Same thing on number 18. I'm going to have 4x equals 32 for my real part. And then negative 18i equals 2i, 2yi, because both of those are imaginary and they have the i's. On my first one, I just divide by 4. I get x equals 8. On the second one, I divide by 2i, and I get negative 9 equals y again. That is so weird. Did not mean to do that. Okay, so number 19 wants me to solve by completing the square. To do this, I need to get my number to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Then I have x squared minus 4x equals 8. What I want to do next is I want to find half of my b value. So negative 4 divided by 2 is 2. I should have done that in red. I'm going to add 2 squared to both sides, because what I add to one side, I have to add to both. Then I get x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 8 plus 4. On the left side, I want to factor, so what multiplies to negative 4, that adds to 4. This is going to be, it should have been a negative 2 earlier. I'm sorry, I'm sick and not thinking straight. Okay, so then I have x minus 2 squared. And the reason it's squared is because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. And additionally, notice this is my number that I got from finding the half earlier. 8 plus 4 is 12. Then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and take my square root. So then I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. I'm going to do the factor tree for 12 to see if I can simplify it a bit. I have 2 and 6, 2 and 3. I do have a pair of 2's that can come out to the front. So I have 2 square root of 3 because the 3 is left over. And then all I want to do next is I want to add 2 to both sides. So I have x equals 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 3. Same thing for number 20. I want to get my number over to the other side. So I add 3 to both sides. Then I have x squared minus 6x equals 3. I want to find half of my b value, so I'm going to do negative 6 divided by 2, which gives me negative 3. So then I'm going to add negative 3 squared to both sides. Negative 3 squared is 9. On the left side, I want to factor. Negative 3 times negative 3 equals positive 9. Negative 3 plus negative 3 equals negative 6. And then I get 12 on the right side again. I don't know, 12 must be my favorite number when I was making this. Then I take the square root. I get x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. From the previous problem, I know the square root of 12 is 2 square root of 3. And then all I need to do is I need to add 3 to both sides. And I get x equals 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 3.